Aggression, violence, and criminal activity. Now, in my current work here in Facility Youth Services, I'm sort of based in a little suburb down the road called Mandurah. Oh, it's not so little. But we're experiencing a phenomenon in our service where we've got young boys with single parent homes that are becoming highly aggressive, and so it's quite an interesting phenomenon that there's this display of aggression, and often it's linked not because they're angry people, but it's often linked to a higher level of stress, high level of trauma, and it's trying to get that unpacked for young people is really, really important, so they understand what's driving it and not necessarily labelled as angry young men. It's really important that we don't label them angry young men because they can't do anything more with that. That's it, they're labelled. We've got to be careful with that. In addition to feeling pain and suffering themselves, children exposed to abuse and neglect are at an increased risk of inflicting pain on others and developing aggressive and violent behaviour in adolescence. Children will become what we teach them. So if we teach them that abuse is okay, then they're going to carry that philosophy into their adolescent life. There's some other rationale behind it, but I just believe it's a monkey see, monkey do type thing. So we teach them to be violent. We show them that being abusive is okay. We show them that violence is okay. Then they're going to take that into relationships, and they're going to demonstrate that because that's all they know. And that's quite limiting for them to think that there's other ways of relating. So again, it's about that awareness when you're working with boys particularly who have become more violent, but even now, little adolescent girls are becoming increasingly violent. So when we work with that context, we just got to understand that that's all they might know, and it might take strong role modelling and maybe some mentoring if you've got it in your area to show them that not necessarily the right way to do things. There are other ways of getting your needs met without raising your fist or being verbally abusive or aggressive. You know, there are other ways of dealing with this stuff. And I guess it's just about doing that extra research and how to do that with young boys and model that quite effectively for them, and especially young girls as well. Research suggests that physical abuse and exposure to family violence are most consistent predictors of youth violence. There you go. In a meta-analysis by Gilbert and colleagues, both prospective and retrospective studies indicate that strong association between child abuse and neglect and criminal behaviour. A National Institute of Justice study in the United States predicted that abused and neglected children were 11 times more likely to be arrested for criminal behaviour in adolescence. That's excluding poverty as well. I think poverty can create a crime element just out of sheer need to make cash. But this is again, it's just probably just focusing a little bit out on those parameters. 83% of children in the Take Two program in Victoria just demonstrated repeat and severe violence towards others. So when we talk to young people who are doing these things, we've got to, again, they're doing it because it's what they know, and they're doing it because they've gone into peer, maybe gang culture, because it's probably the most trusting relationship that they have. So again, it's a long work. It's not a quick fix, because we'll go into brain development soon. And it's that quick, we said that long journey, that long process, because it's a lot of testing for us as well. And the young person's probably thinking, are you going to stay around long enough, or am I going to be assigned another social worker in 6 months or in 3 months? It's quite a phenomenon, the staff turnover in these high pressure roles that are out there. And so the young person's probably seen 4 or 5 counsellors or 6 or 7 youth workers, or maybe had about 3 or 4 social workers before they even walk through your door, you know, and let alone the justice system and everything else that they have to deal with. So it's a bit of a journey that you have to do with it, and you start off in the surface level, so if it's the criminality or it's the drug use, and you unpack that for them, you do the work with them, and then you start breaking it down, and you start talking about family of origins, family systems, talk about significant relationships that they're involved in. And then eventually the stories will come out that would sound quite terrible for us, but probably very normal for them. And it's about working with that story and honouring that story and mentoring and role modelling desired behaviour. So if you're offensive about swearing, maybe it's a role modelling, hey, when you're in this space, we don't use those words. Maybe outside that space you can, but in this space, like a counselling space or an interview, that you don't. And it's just showing them a different way of relating and a different way of being with another person. Because you're probably a person, you know, who cares and is genuine and authentic, and they're not used to that. They're not used to the wishy-washy, feely type stuff, maybe. And so that's going to be really hard for them to translate. Or where is the F bomb? Where is that C word? Why are you being so nice to me? What do you want? You know, all this sort of stuff. So there's all this suspicion going on inside their head, and it's about to get through that and just say, hey, no, this is genuine, this is authentic, and this is a good space for you and I.